Welcome to Advice for Grad Students, or What I Wish I Knew When I Was a First or Second Year Grad Student. I'm Phil Haun, your host. I'm an alum from 2010, and I have with me today Erik Sand, who defended just last year. Erik and I happen to be at the Naval War College, and so as a disclaimer, these are our views and not that of the Department of Defense or any of its services. Erik, welcome to Advice for Grad Students.
Thanks, Phil. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, great. Today's topic is on something very near and dear to all of us, which is the dissertation defense. And so, Erik, the first thing I want to ask you is, what got you interested in this topic? Why did you want to talk about the defense?
So my general impression is that at most graduate programs, the defense is one of the most transparent parts of the process. Everybody in the community is invited to come to dissertation defenses. And so by the time you get to your own, you've seen a lot. But in the MIT Political Science Department, it's the opposite. It's quite secretive. We don't invite anybody. And so I really wanted to help dispel some of the mystery about what goes on there.
Okay, well, great. I had a similar experience, so some things never change. All right, so go ahead. What advice do you have to grad students thinking about long-term, that down the end of the road, that dissertation defense?
So I have to caveat it first by saying that every committee can be a little bit different. And so the advice that I can give comes from my committee, which was Barry Posen, Vipin Narang, and Ken Oy. And so other committees might have a slightly different approach. If there's one piece of advice that I could give to students about dissertation defenses, which was something that I stumbled into by almost dumb luck, it's that there's a way that you can sneak into a dissertation defense before your own, and that's to ask to be the note taker for a more senior grad student who's defending their dissertation. And that's the best possible preparation that you can have to go for your defense years later, because you'll have gotten to see one with your own eyes firsthand. And I'll tell you everything I can about what I learned about defenses, but having that firsthand experience just can't be beat.
Okay, but that is great advice there. Be sneaky about getting some experience as a note taker. Okay, I happen to have two of those same committee members. Barry and Ken were on my defense. Besides the sneaky part here, what other advice do you have as far as prepping for the defense?
Yeah. So first, remember, your committee likely won't let you schedule your defense unless they think you're well on track to be ready to defend. What that means is that rarely are defenses hostile, at least not underneath. You might get some hard questions. But you should be going in confident that everybody there wants you to succeed. The second thing that I would say is your dissertation committee has likely read, maybe not all, but much of your dissertation, and they've been following your progress for 2 years. So unlike a job talk, in a dissertation defense, you don't need to recap every detail of what you've done in the course of your dissertation. You need to talk about your major argument, but I think it's more valuable to focus on the points where you're still struggling. And that does two things. One, it focuses the conversation on the place where you need advice, because a dissertation defense is the last time you're going to have your whole committee in the same room. So it's a great opportunity to get their advice, particularly if you've gotten conflicting advice from different members of your committee leading up to the defense. I will also say that one of the best things you can do if you're feeling nervous about your defense is find a way to get two of your committee members to fight during your defense, because then that takes the heat off of you. But the second reason why a defense it's really useful, I think, to highlight the parts that you're still struggling with, is it makes clear to your committee that you're not trying to hide anything. If you've been able to self-assess what the weaknesses of your dissertation are, even at the defense, it will disarm the potential for lots of harsher criticism that you might get. And it'll be your committee members more on the side of helping you rather than tearing you apart. Okay,
so you've been talking about committee members as unitary kind of actors, but there's differences there. So can you tell me a little bit about the difference between the chair and the committee members and how that worked out in the defense?
Absolutely. So my committee chair Barry Posen spent much more time being much more closely engaged with my dissertation than my other committee members did. That meant his approach to the defense was a little bit different than my other committee members because he was more familiar. So my other committee members had questions in many ways that were more overarching theoretical questions about ways the dissertation could go that the chair tended, in my experience, not to have in the course of my dissertation defense. And so they were the ones at the defense who maybe pushed me a little bit harder in some ways.
Okay. All right. Now, when I defended, I needed two signatures, the chair and then whoever was responsible for graduate students who wasn't even in on the committee. Was that the case for you as well?
Yes, that was still the case for me.
Okay. And so the question I have is, where did, in your experience, where was there friction and how did you adjudicate that between the committee members? And where did you defer?
So the biggest friction that I had was between my chair and one other committee member, and it was a debate about one of the core sort of theoretical ideas in my dissertation and how much that debate mattered without getting into the specifics of my individual case. That debate came out in the course of the defense, and my committee members, to my earlier point, spent more time discussing it between themselves than me getting in. I will say I agreed more with the committee member than the chair, but that the dissertation as it was written probably did a little bit more to reflect the chair's thoughts than that specific committee members.
Okay. All right. With some of the remaining time, I want to talk about after the defense. And so my experience was that much of the defense was about what to do with this research going forward. And so my question to you is, what was your experience with the defense and how it helped you with your future research?
My experience was exactly the same. So much of our conversation focused on the process of turning the dissertation into a book and the type of revisions that I would need to make in order to be successful at doing that. And that included both additional empirical work that I wanted to add, or that the committee thought I needed to add to the dissertation, as well as changes to the theoretical construct to streamline the dissertation in order to prepare it better to be a book. That said, my committee was very clear that when we talked about those changes, they were designed as changes for the book, not changes for the dissertation prior to submission. So that's an important question to ask if you're uncertain in your defense when you get feedback from your committees. What, if any of that, they expect as revisions prior to you submitting the dissertation, and what is advice for the longer term?
Okay. Yeah, I had the exact same experience looking for the book. Did you have any material in the dissertation that they helped you flag for spinoffs that they thought might not go in the dissertation, but might go into other type of research?
So I had a somewhat similar experience, but not entirely. I think my experience was the committee thought there were parts of the dissertation that needed to be streamlined in the theory. And so there were parts that could be excised. We didn't talk explicitly about spin-off work, at least as I recall, though certainly it was my own intention that I thought that those ideas were valuable, and I have been working to spin them off into other projects.
Okay, and I'm going to come around to one of your first comments, which is you had a note taker. When you had your defense, what technique did you use for note taking? How effective was it? And if you had to do it again, would you do it the same way or something different?
So I think my defense might have been a little different than a lot of defenses students might face going forward, because when I defended, we were still coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, and my defense was conducted over Zoom. So I had asked to have a third-party note taker there because I wanted to pay forward the favor that another grad student had done for me. I was told just record the meeting instead. So I took some notes during the meeting, but the principal thing that I did was to record the meeting and then take the transcript. I haven't had the courage to go back and watch the entire video from start to finish.
Okay, well, I did the same thing. I asked if I could record on the iPhone, and I did. And that was critically important to me because during the defense, I don't know if you found this, but I found myself tending to defend my ideas and not thinking about what I was going to respond to, as opposed to actually hearing what they said, which had to do with work I was going to be doing months and months and months from then. Did you find the same type of experience?
I certainly found that there were some things the committee was saying that I was more focused on than others. And I was glad that I had that other information because there were things I would have missed if I hadn't had that recording.
Okay, great. So we're about done here. So I'm going to give you an opportunity. Any other thoughts that you have on the dissertation defense?
If you haven't already, Google MIT snake fight dissertation defense and read the wise advice that's on that page.
Oh, okay. I'm going to do that right now then. Anyway, thank you very much, Erik, for your time providing your insights to advice for grad students. Take
Thanks,
care.
so happy to be here.